وقال الرسول يا رب إن قوم اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam will say, "O my Rabb, my people have ignored this Quran." In this verse of the Qur'anic Kareem, one of the scenes of the day of Qiyamah has been portrayed before us, wherein Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam will complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Rasul here refers to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wasallam, our beloved Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. What is the complaint going to be? The complaint will be as follows: Ya Rabbi, O my beloved Allah, my Rabb, inna qawmi ittakhadhu hadha al-Qur'ana mahjura. My people, my nation have ignored the Quran. Or another translation could be have abandoned the Qur'anic Kareem. So the Qur'anic Kareem is the best of speech. It is the way of guidance, the book of wisdom, and it will remain unchanged and protected until the day of Qiyamah. So the Quran is our connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, one who abandons the Quran has in fact abandoned his connection and relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is what gives true life to the hearts of the believers. If a Muslim continues abandoning the Quran, his iman weakens, he commits sin unrepentantly, and he prefers the enjoyments of this temporary life over the life of the hereafter. His heart becomes dark, and the filth of sins veils upon him, and no light of guidance will now penetrate into his heart. When it comes to the meaning of abandoning the Quran and ignoring the Quran, then there are various statements which we learn from ulama, wherein it becomes evident that the abandonment of Quran is of different levels. The first level of abandonment, which is of course the worst level of abandonment, is to disbelieve in the Quran. And on top of disbelieving in the Quran, a person also prevents others from listening to it by making noises and speaking aloud, etc., while the Quran is being recited. Like it is mentioned in the Qur'an Kareem, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَا تَسْمَعُوا لِهَذَا الْقُرْآنِ وَالْغَوْا فِيهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَغْلِبُونَ. The mushrikeen in Mecca and Medina, the idolaters, etc., they would be a means of nuisance and noise while the Quran would be recited, so that others cannot hear the Qur'an Kareem itself. So this is the worst level of abandonment and ignorance of the Quran. The second level of abandonment is not to seek out its message, as is the case of many human beings who all go through life not giving any priority to Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam in terms of learning the message of the Qur'an Kareem, and they do not even make any attempt to discover what the Quran has to say. That is the second level of abandonment, not to delve in its message, not to make an effort to learn what the Quran is telling us. It is mentioned in regard to some of the pious. They would say that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum regarded the Quran Kareem as a special message and letter from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hence they would ponder upon its meanings and messages throughout the nights, and during the day they would practically show the Quran to the people by acting and practicing upon its commands and teachings. The third level of abandonment is committed by those who believe in the Quran Kareem, and they are in fact of course Muslims, but they do not even listen to the Quran Kareem. This does not mean that the Quran is never recited in the presence of those Muslims, but rather it means that when it is recited, they do not respect it to the extent that they do not even concentrate on listening to it. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Quran Kareem, وَإِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنِ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَأَنصِتُوا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. When the Quran is recited, فَاسْتَمِعُوا, make your whole self into an ear and listen to the Quran. Listen attentively. وَأَنصِتُوا, and keep quiet, no noise at all. لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ, so the spiritual mercy and blessing of Allah can envelop you. The fourth level of abandonment is to abandon the recitation of the Qur'Ānic Kareem. This includes those who make an effort or those who make no effort at all to learn the Arabic alphabet, the vowels, so as to be able to learn the Qur'Ānic Kareem. So one is a person knows how to recite the Qur'Ānic Kareem, but he still doesn't recite it. That is also a certain level of abandonment. Together with that, a person makes no effort to learn the Qur'Ānic Kareem at all. And then the fourth level of abandonment, that was the fourth level. The fifth level of abandonment is to abandon and ignore the memorization of the Qur'Ānic Kareem. This refers to a person who is, unable to spend at least some time in his life, make an effort to learn at least a portion of the Qur'Ānic Kareem. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in one hadith had mentioned that إِنَّ الَّذِي لَيْسَ فِي جَوْفِهِ شَيْءٌ مِّنَ الْقُرْآنِ كَالْبَيْتِ الْخَرِبِ. A person in whose heart there is no Qur'an at all, meaning he hasn't memorized any portion of the Qur'Ānic Kareem, is like a haunted house where nobody would like to visit. It's a house filled with darkness. There is no nur and there is no light of hidayat and guidance in his heart. So in this regard, we should also understand that those who memorize the Qur'Ānic Kareem as well, they neglect it by not going over what the Qur'Ānic Kareem has taught them. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in this level of abandonment, this hadith also applies wherein a person after memorizing the Qur'an makes no effort whatsoever to maintain and ensure and revise the Qur'an so that he does not forget it. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, تعاهدوا القرآن فوالذي نفسي بيده لهو أشد تفلتا من الإبل في عقولها. Preserve the Qur'an in your hearts. By Allah in whose hand lays the life of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, it goes out of a person's memory faster than a camel could escape from its rope. So in terms of memorization of the Qur'an, a person makes no effort, or a person memorized the Qur'an and now he makes no effort in ensuring to maintain the memorization of the Qur'Ānic Kareem. And the sixth level of abandonment, the sixth stage of abandonment, is to abandon the reflection of the Qur'Ānic Kareem. This is generally those that do not understand the Arabic language and they are unaware of the meanings of the Qur'an. So this could be in particular to those kind of people. Hence, it is also advised that a person should seek and study the Qur'an under the guidance of a reliable scholar of Deen, understand its meanings, its translations, the message of the Qur'an, ponder upon the verses of the Qur'an, what the Qur'an is trying to tell you, etc. And the last and most dangerous level is the abandonment of practicing what the Qur'an has told you. The essence of this type of abandonment is illustrated in the following narration, in which Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Al-Qur'anu hujjatun lak aw alayk. The Qur'Ānic Kareem is either an argument for you or against you. Imam An-Nawawi rahimahullah states in regard to the meaning of this hadith that it means you will benefit from it if you recite it and act by it. Otherwise, it will be an argument against you. This means that on the day of Qiyamah, the Qur'an will be a proof for a person, or it will be a witness against a person in regard to those who disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they did not follow the path that has been highlighted and outlined in his kitab, the Qur'Ānic Kareem. So, respected listeners, the very purpose of listening, reading, memorizing, reflecting on the Qur'Ānic Kareem is to be able to practice upon the Qur'Ānic Kareem. Hence, this is the gravest level of abandonment of the Qur'Ānic Kareem. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those whose homes are filled with the recitation of the Qur'an, whose hearts are filled with the memorization and guidance and nur of the Qur'an. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from being amongst either of these categories. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen.